The whole concept behind this particular series is that when we talk about purpose, people don't feel like they have purpose. They don't feel like their life is significant enough to have purpose. You can show them somebody else, Einstein, Mother Teresa, or some other famous person, and they say, oh, well, they obviously have purpose. Really? They have purpose? Or were they just faithful to their abilities, faithful to their passions, committed to what they had a desire to do, and just put some elbow grease into it, and they developed themselves? Because if that's the case, then you can do the same thing, right? You don't have to look at somebody else and say, oh, wow, they have so much purpose, but I don't have any. Sure, you may not do it at the grand scale of an Einstein or whoever, but that doesn't mean you can't make a huge difference in the world or the circles that you run in. And that is your responsibility. That is your sacred duty. Again, we want to make the world a better place. And that's not going to happen by a politician. It's not going to happen by a policy, a political party. It's not going to happen by anything like that. It's not going to be economics that does it. It's going to be what you and I do in our respective worlds. Hurt people can hurt other people, right? And so instead of letting the buck stop with you, when personal pain is brought to you, you take it out on somebody else. So you find, for example, I was watching something the other day about Charles Manson. It was talking about his backstory, which I've never really knew about before. But that kid was, when he was a kid, was hurt. He was abused. He was in foster homes. I mean, his whole history is just one of pain. It's no surprise that he became the person that he was. Hurt people can hurt people. But there's also some people who are broken and hurt who actually became a master at mending. And they made the commitment to themselves not to be that. There are certain people who grew up in an alcoholic's home who made the commitment that they were not going to do that. And they were twice, the father or mother that their parent was. You don't have to replicate the past, and you don't have to let what happened to you destroy your future. Let your gifts, your talents, your abilities, the things that you have the capacity to do, let that steer you and guide you. And again, if pain can cause damage in the world, then what happens when you commit yourself to your calling? What happens when you fulfill the sacred duty you have to yourself? You make the world a better place. You don't end up passing on the pain, passing on the hurt. No, instead, you pass on motivation. You pass on wisdom. You pass on inspiration. You pass on money. You pass on resources and property. You pass on skills. You pass on love and compassion. And you start creating, you break the vicious cycle of what your parents were like, or what your background, your history was like. You break that vicious cycle, and with you begins a new generation. That's why I love the story of the patriarch Abraham in the Old Testament. He came out of nowhere, man, right? Came out of nowhere, and as the story goes, God changed his name from Abram to Abraham, which means Abraham means father of many nations. Think about that. Father of many nations. That's what his name meant. So, in other words, from out of his loins would come nations. Well, out of your loins are going to come multiple generations. And you can have an impact on everything that follows after you from this point on, just by you fulfilling that sacred duty, because it makes a better you, and a better you is going to have a better impact on the lives of those who are around you. We do have a sense of purpose. Again, it doesn't have to be on the grand scale of somebody famous. It just needs to be your fulfillment of that duty, and whatever results come are the results that come. This is not about ego. This is not about look what I did. This is about you being faithful, man. This is about you fulfilling that obligation, that duty that you have to yourself, to make yourself more than you are, to maximize all that you are, all that you can do for the greater purpose. That's what this is about. That's what you have to do. This is the commitment you have to make to yourself. Have you made it? Because if not, man, that's the first step. Can you dig it? Hope you can.